The 6 fabled Infinity Stones have been widely regarded as the most powerful artifacts in the known universe, and are often regarded as legend, with the ability to tap into the fundamental forces of existence and manipulate the very fabric of the universe. They have been avidly sought by some of the most powerful figures and organizations throughout the cosmos, with individual stones falling into the hands of the Asgardians, as well as the Nova Corps, the Sorcerers of Kamar-Taj, and a myriad of other individuals. We saw Thanos use their incredible cosmic power to eliminate half of all organic life in his timeline upon collecting all 6 of them, and we have seen the power that just one of the stones yields on its own. We've seen the individual stones destroy entire planets, as well as threaten eternal darkness across a galaxy and tear holes in the fabric of space itself. These sacred artifacts in the wrong hands could wreak intergalactic devastation for their worlds, as we've seen not only in Infinity War, but also in the recent episode of What If, wherein a variant of Ultron, who is commonly regarded here on the channel as Infinity Ultron, has used the stones to not only conquer his universe at large, but also expand his reach into the multiverse itself. The comic precedent states that each set of these precious Infinity Stones, however powerful they may be, is confined to their own universe and are unable to affect the parallel universes should they ever be carried into another timeline. But fans have been quick to point out that in the MCU, this rule seems to have been largely disregarded. When Ultron battles the Watcher in episode 8 of What If, he takes the battle across different timelines in different reality, but no matter to which timeline he travels, his power never seems to wane in the slightest. While it has never been explicitly stated in the MCU that the stones are limited to their home realities, this does seem to contradict the comic lore, and this has been something that many fans have been speculating over ever since the release of the episode. Lucky for us, however, What If head writer A.C. Bradley has gone on record to help clarify some of these apparent disparities. So stick with us, watchers of the Marvel Multiverse, as we dive into his quote, what exactly it means, and how it affects the larger universe as a whole. Before we begin, we'd like to clarify that when we say it has never been explicitly stated that the stones don't work outside of their home universes, we are not counting the evidence that the stones don't work in the TVA. And the reason for this is because the TVA itself seems to nullify all energy-based powers and abilities as a whole, including the Infinity Stones. It has largely been implied that the stones don't work specifically within the TVA, but never in the Loki series are we given any indication that the stones wouldn't work across different timelines. With that out of the way, let's dive into what the head writer of What If series had to say about this idea. Bradley states that the comic precedent still maintains its standing in the Marvel Multiverse, but the way Ultron is using the stones is rather clever. He proposes that Ultron is not using the stones to manipulate the world around him, but is actually using the stones to power himself, seeing as he is from the same universe as the Infinity Stones, which he holds in his chassis. Using the power of the stones, he is then able to channel them in ways that can affect the neighboring universes around him indirectly. We actually see this during his battle with the Watcher, as the Infinity Stones each seem to give off a uniform blast of raw energy, lacking the apparent individuality that we've seen from the stones in the past in the mainline MCU. Despite the individual powers of each stone, they never seem to serve their intended function, instead being muted to simple energy channeling attacks. Even the distinct green energy of the Time Stone can be seen in laser form, but what's important to note is that the Time Stone has never been seen to be used in this manner. It has always been used to manipulate the flow of time, either to reset the timeline or to look forward into possible futures. But with this new context, this now makes much more sense. Ultron is not using the power of the Time Stone for its intended purpose because he simply can't in this universe. The flow of time in alternate timelines is incompatible with the Time Stone's intended function, which is also why he never uses the Reality Stone to transmute matter or to simply turn the Watcher into a duck or something equally as ludicrous, yet incredibly simple at the same time. Because of the simple fact that he can't. He cannot use the stones to manipulate the universe around him, but what he has discovered he can do is use the stones to power himself, since he is from their home timeline. Then he uses the power that he supercharges into himself to create blasts of incredible energy that can combat even the likes of the mighty Watcher. This raises the pressing question though, is Ultron actually weaker in the multiverse than he is in his home reality? And I believe the answer is actually yes. Ultron has a clear disadvantage when he's traveling throughout the multiverse, as he can only manipulate himself. And while he's still one of the most powerful beings that we've ever seen in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, his power likely pales in comparison to a reality where he can control everything and utilize the stones for their intended purpose. According to this explanation, Ultron's own weapons appear to be powered by the stones, and his weapons and gadgets are what seem to be functional across different timelines, not the Infinity Stones themselves. Since Ultron is from the same universe as the stones that he has collected, he is able to be affected by them in whatever way he chooses, and in this context, he chooses to use them as batteries of sorts. This solution not only allows Ultron to remain immensely powerful across the multiverse and threaten multiple timelines via the use of the Infinity Stones, but it also helps tremendously to maintain the continuity set by the comic lore and remain loyal to the source material while also putting a cap on Ultron's power. This also would mean that the reach of the Infinity Stones and the potential of their power is limited by Ultron's technology. Though the Time Stone might be able to manipulate the flow of time, Ultron as of now does not have the technology to do so, even with the aid of the Time Stone itself. This explanation given by Bradley could also be a feasible explanation and reason for why Ultron is able to be defeated in the final episode, because the powers of the stones are limited to the weapons that Ultron possesses, and they cannot be used to their fullest extent while being used on different timelines not of their origin. This obviously does not mean though that Infinity Ultron will be an easy foe to defeat. What Ultron can do, however, is use the energy output to power laser-based weapons that we see in the What If series. If Ultron is eventually able to develop tools capable of mimicking the functions of individual Infinity Stones, such as opening the Bifrost to replicate the power of the Space Stone for example, then he may be able to use the energy of the stones to act as a battery of sorts, but the stones themselves cannot affect the world around Ultron in the ways we've seen before. They can only affect Ultron himself. But anyway, my friends, what do you think of this explanation? Do you think that this is a reasonable solution to the criticisms of fans, or would you prefer a different canonical explanation? How do you feel of the fact that Ultron is actually using the stones to bolster his own powers because he's from his origin universe, and that the stones themselves are essentially useless outside of Ultron's core body? If you don't agree with this explanation, how would you like to see the phenomena to be explained when the finale of What If releases tomorrow? As always, my friends, hit that subscribe button to assemble and join our team. Stay tuned tomorrow for our breakdown of the final What If episode, and have a great day.